Well, we are here with Laura Gibney, one of our members, one of our band volunteers, one of our wonderful people who has been on quite a life journey. And as we were talking about healing, I thought, who better to ask about healing than Laura Gibney? So, you'll understand later. So, Laura, you and I talked about this a little bit, and one of the things that we talked about was Jesus' humanity and how that relates to our human experience. So how do you see Jesus' humanity kind of relating to what we go through as humans?
I'm kind of a conceptual learner or person. Like, if you give me numbers, I won't remember. But I like to kind of look at themes, and I feel like we have 4 books of Jesus, right? 4. Mm-hmm. To kind of compare and contrast and see what he's up to. And Jesus was sent here basically to have the human experience, kind of like, go live there and report back, let me know how it is, spread my word. He didn't like float down and, zoom around and only talk to kings and queens and all of the leaders of the world. But he kind of went straight to the trenches, and he found the sick and the poor and maybe just people who were, sinners is kind of the term often used, but basically normal people. And he didn't just watch them and have no emotions and not feel things, but he lived with them. He cried with them. I'm sure he laughed with them. He probably sang with them. And he probably had a lot of anxiety because he had a lot on his shoulders. Mm-hmm. And I don't picture he, went skipping up to the cross at the end of his life and went, oh, this is really easy. I'll see you guys in 3 days, Yeah. He had the human emotions, and he saw the human emotions of the people around him. And kind of for all of those reasons and so much more, I just feel like that's the part of the Bible that draws me in and that says somebody gets it. Not, it's been this human form was literally here amongst other humans who were suffering and struggling and rejoicing and healing. So that's where humanity and Jesus kind of come together in a concept for me versus just these individual little stories about what he was up to.
Yeah, and that sense that in Jesus, like, God fully understands the human struggle, like all the joys, all the sorrows, the whole 9 yards, because Jesus has been through it. Well, you have a unique perspective because of your situation, which I alluded to earlier. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I call it my health odyssey because it maybe was a health condition or 5 back in the day. I have struggled with miscellaneous mental health things, mostly anxiety, depression, kind of sleep issues, which kind of melded into potentially being bipolar. Lots of questions, but since I was really young. And for the most part, that's been used for a lot of positive things, but continues to always be part of the struggle. And then in my early 20s, I started having chronic pain issues, muscle weakness, soreness, all of those kinds of things, got the fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue kind of diagnosis. My mom has some autoimmune disorders, diagnosed and undiagnosed, and so most likely that is the case for me as well. And then over the last 10 years or so, I started having trouble eating foods, just feeling sick, being nauseous, having bowel issues, all the things we don't like to talk about anywhere, especially at church. Which leads kind of to today. I have not drank a glass of actual water in at least 3 years. I can only drink sparkling things or things that kind of wake my stomach up. I have a gastroparesis diagnosis, which means my stomach doesn't pump correctly, but because I've been doing this for a little bit, it also means that none of your gastrointestinal tract really talks to each other. So it works, it doesn't work, one part works, one part doesn't work. It's kind of just a disaster. So for the most part, I have a central line or a port that I can get liquid and nutrition through. But I also still attempt to eat, because once you stop, you don't get to start again, because it's a muscular thing, so you need to keep swallowing and keep doing that. But I have vomiting and sickness if I eat more than about a half a cup of food in like one sitting. So when you see me licking frosting off cake, you'll all know why now. That's my favorite snack.
You can only have so much. Yeah.
So everything about my life is just different, because it includes vomiting, diarrhea, just things we don't generally talk about. All my day, as far as if I'm going to go somewhere or do things, I kind of have to plan in advance. And then there's lots of days I just can't plan for, and I just don't feel well. And all of the other things didn't go away, they just joined the family. So it's kind of just a day-to-day struggle of trying to get through the day and making the best of it. But that's kind of the long story short, but still long.
Yeah. Which, and knowing that that has been your health odyssey, so to speak, which it really is. It is like a Greek. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's 20
like
years
Homer.
now, so I think that's like enough.
Yeah, that qualifies as an
time.
odyssey. Well, and knowing that you've kind of been through so much and continue to go through so much, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you about healing. Because with all of this and chronic health issues, how do you think about healing?
I avoided church for a long time because I had this concept, or was often told, that healing was kind of this 100% thing. If you prayed enough, if you did the right things, if you acted the right way, if you were around the right people, that somehow you would be healed. And I thought I was doing all of those things to the best of my human ability, failing and doing the right things kind of simultaneously. And that message really carried a lot of like failure and bad feelings. And so as I kind of kept struggling and was realizing kind of what things got me through the day and what things didn't, I just kind of started picking up on different realities of how you can live and strive and how you're getting better. Technically, my diagnosis is terminal. They say 5 to 7 years just due to malnutrition. I've had sepsis 3 times. I've had pancreatitis. I end up with very serious infections fairly easily. And so everything about perspective changed. And I realized that no matter how long or short I had, I just needed to start doing things different so I could feel as good as I possibly could about each day, and go out into the world and try to do what I always kind of wanted to do, which was just be helpful to others and be kind of a servant and a speaker, honestly. I didn't really plan to speak about myself, but that's
we asked you
kind
to.
of what happened. It's the best message. So during this time of COVID, I also realized that people were really, really struggling, and I was still kind of going about my life in the way that I go about my life. And at first I felt bad because, they're all talking about these new struggles and things, and I'm like, not that I'm not listening or don't care about, their anxieties and their struggles, but just trying to figure out what the difference was or why I felt that way. And I realized that there were a lot of people stuck in this idea, like, we lost so much, the world really changed. Our lives changed. What we did in a day, how we functioned changed. And a lot of people were really just striving to get back to this place of normal. And maybe normal just doesn't work anymore. Maybe normal isn't normal. And we're already like outside the box. So why are we so desperate to like jump back in and do things whether they worked really for our families and our lives and ourselves or not? So I kind of just kept listening to people and thinking about why I didn't think it was that different. And it really boiled down to healing not having to be 100%. I don't expect to pray to be better when I go to bed tonight and wake up miraculously cured. That would be amazing, and I'm not taking it off the table. Like, if it happens, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. I like when people pray that for me. I don't have any problem with the idea of being healed. So, the difference is that when I kind of break it down a little bit, each day I'm thankful to sit up in bed and get my legs over the side and actually make it to my meds. Mm-hmm. And that sounds stupid and silly, but it starts my day, and it's really hard. But it's a little accomplishment that is essential for my day. My day doesn't go anywhere unless I do that. So maybe that's my goal. Maybe that's what healing is to me. I've kind of changed the concept to just be healing is anything that you do or change that points you in a different but hopefully more positive direction that helps you make that pivot towards something better. And maybe some days those will be giant steps. And maybe some days they will be micro, mini, nobody will ever know you even took them steps. But they're steps, and they make your day better. And there isn't as much disappointment in it because most likely you're going to choose things that work out for you, or that you are able to consistently do as part of your, making the day better and your way of healing. And so that's kind of, whether it's anxiety, whether it's chronic pain, whether it's any kind of mental health, problem that's going on, or physical health problem that's going on, or if you're, just a family that's really busy and it's hard to get you all pointed in any kind of direction, it applies to everybody. We may never go back to what our normal was. But what if being pushed out of the box and looking at things differently and just striving for little moments of healing and making things better in your life turns into something huge and better than what you could have imagined? And I find more hope in that concept of just living my dreams and living my best life compared to, insta-heal. I mean, again, insta-heal is fine.
Great. Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I just, it feels better. It has a more positive tone to just be working in a more positive direction, no matter what you are up against in your day.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that perspective because, when you are dealing with something chronic, it's like, how do you keep going forward, as you say, knowing that 100% healing, the only way that's going to happen is straight up miracle. So how do you work towards, okay, well, what can today's little victories be? What can be the tiny things, like the 4 things I was going to get done today? Did I accomplish those? Yay! That feels like, okay, life is going in that different direction that I was hoping it would. That little piece of healing each day. Yeah. So you have gone through a lot. So how do you think about feelings, tears. Our series is called Jesus Wept. Mental health, emotional wellness. What have you come to understand about all of those things?
Life is a mind and body experience. You don't get one and not the other. Like, they follow each other and they follow suit. Mental health is something that we just need to be talking about and being kind of more straightforward with. If people are really struggling and they need help, they shouldn't feel bad or scared or anything about not getting it or not asking for it. Or not talking about it. There's so many things that you can learn about your mental health, whether you're struggling or whether you are the happiest person on the planet. So many things that you can have in your toolbox to really help you thrive and do as best as you can and not sit and worry and not always feel anxietal about what's next. And to look at things just a little bit differently. I know we've talked about grief in this series and kind of the 5 levels or the process you go through in grieving. Well, when you have chronic illness, the process still exists. You're grieving a lot. I lost my profession. I lost stable income, I've lost relationships. There was a lot of loss at the very beginning. And each day, there's little losses, little things that I could do that now is not so easy or are more challenging now than they were before. So instead of kind of being a step-by-step till the end kind of thing, it's more of a circular thing that you kind of bounce between. And I have a pastor friend actually in New Zealand who kind of is walking this new journey with me. And she just kind of shared with me, it's okay to be angry. Mm-hmm. It's okay to question God and why things are happening. It's okay to yell about whatever's happening to God. We don't all have to pray the same way. Crying sometimes is just a necessity and happens in every range of emotion from sad to happy, so I don't know why we judge it on one end and not the other. Yeah. All of those emotions are what you feel. So as long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else in the process, feel them. Mm-hmm.
And there's biblical precedent for all of that.
Exactly.
You got Moses going, God, why?
And sometimes you can see me reenacting that in my own yard.
Right.
And all of that lent itself to kind of a new freedom, to feel emotions, to know that you'll feel them, and most likely by feeling them and not judging them, they pass faster. Because you're going to go back to your place of okay if you can just kind of get through that. Or if you're not going back to okay, those are your times that you find a friend or, you go and actually talk to somebody or seek help. And that's kind of how you know the difference. If you can't make it back to your normal, you probably just need a little, assistance, and that's okay. Yeah. So I strongly believe that all of these things apply to mental health, physical health, and people who struggle with neither one of them, which, honestly, not very many people like that. We are human. Yeah. And so all of it is important to maintain, and all of it is important to continue to keep discussing. It isn't just today's topic, but it's an everyday life concept. And so your goals in your day and your healing moments could be in a physical way, could be in a family way, could be in a mental health way. And you have all these choices to create this path to something better. And you're going to fail. Some days, epic failures. But now I can look at it and say, wow, that was an epic failure, and kind of laugh at myself and go, I don't even know why I set myself up for this, or like why I thought this was so important. But it just puts you in a place to look at things just a little bit differently and a little bit less judgmentally, and helps you talk to others about it in a way that doesn't feel so, I don't like to use the word crazy, but just doesn't feel out of touch. It seems really, really human and something other people probably experience.
Yep.
So that's, it all flows together, and I feel blessed to have found a faith family whom I trust and love. And to even call myself a person of faith wasn't really in my cards per se, but now when I'm having bad days, if I'm just, not doing well, I know that if I show up, even if I really don't do anything and I'm just kind of around for the day, I'm going to leave in a better place. People who don't have to love me do. People who want to, be my friend, spend time, sing, be in the band, be prayerful, or whatever it is that we all need, we give and take from each other. And I have an amazing family at home, so it's not like, I was in this bad place, but they serve a completely different role in my life. And so, and now it all blends together. But faith wasn't a thing I would have necessarily said I was like a woman of faith, or that I had a strong faith. And I don't believe that every church is the same, and that you can have the same journey with all people. But it's okay to be different and still love each other too. And so there's just lots of new and different avenues when you're faced with a lot of struggle and hardship that I'm trying to explore. So every day can be better, and I hope other people can stay outside of that comfort box a little bit and try something different, or look at it a little bit differently, or set your sights in different goals in different ways, and find faith, and find joy, and find healing in making little changes and being a part of a community. And that's kind of the end game for me. If I die tomorrow, at least I died trying. And
Classic Laura.
yeah, and if I live for 20 years, then I did something right. Or I did something way wrong, and it took me 20 years to get to the point where God was like, okay, she's good.
But to find those little pieces of healing in community, in being together, in recognizing that whatever you're going through, whatever your human experience is, to go, Jesus gets it, because Jesus walked through this too. All right, there's a little bit of healing in that. And then with that perspective shift of what's the pivot I can make today to recognize those small victories as little bits of healing, even if 100% healing isn't going to happen today. Yeah. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you.
We do love you.
I feel it every time I walk in the building.